will.
Okay, let's pay some damn chess.
Someone like Kinston
You
having
slap
a
that
similar
slut from
following
China,
in
Japan, and the
but
Orient.
instead
I
of
mean the
comics,
Orient.
it's music. Specifically in the screamo, hard rock, hillbilly juggalos. There are other factors like his unfortunate appearance. Jesus, it's like I'm watching a gore video without the gore. But all that wouldn't matter if the music was good, right? Though, just like Sonic Shoe, the quality and delusions are equally as bad. But is he truly that bad? Or is he just misunderstood? At least the latter
You
could
slap
be
that
true
slut
in
from
a
China,
literal
Japan,
sense.
and the Orient. I mean the Orient. Street whore. I'll put your black ass to stall with you.
But you don't need to feel too bad, since
Move
his
your black ass.
already came and went, with tons of allegations of 16 minors and assaulting a blind person. Well, sexually assaulting a blind person. Now, could this ruin his chance to be famous?
Come on, you slut that
Not really.
slut.
The music industry is full of rape. If anything, he'll fit right in. But he probably won't.
These motherfuckers always looking at me like they want to get a motherfucking visa. Does he really got a stick? He's like, you know what, be tough. Let me go get a stick, motherfucker, and swing it around like a samurai.
You suck my dick, bitch.
One of you. He forgot what he was about to say. Listen to this shit.
They're all very amateurish, with beats and lyrics taken from different sources. Outright plagiarism. Similar to Kinston's music, but at least her songs are funnier. Where most of Chance's music is very repetitive, stale, and there's so goddamn much of it. Around 100, in fact. So much for quality over quantity. Like, if he's performing, how could he remember all these songs?
Bitch.
Well, I guess I'm asking the wrong question now, am I?
Come on, dick sucker. Come on, you dick sucker.
And on this list, we are looking at the most notable.
Move,
there are
dick
multiple
sucker.
albums compiling all the songs. Throughout the making of this video, there are
Move,
11
dick
albums
sucker.
labeled Chance Wilkins Sings, which usually comprises of 12 songs each. However, we are only going to take a look at the first 9.
Come
one
on, you
song
dick sucker.
per album. So none of his spoken poems
You
or
suck
intro
my
will be
dick,
included.
bitch.
It seems to me that I need to educate some people on some shit about the use of the N-word.
As long as they were sang by Chance, they will be on the list.
You suck
Originality
my
and
dick,
copyright
bitch.
strikes
You
from
suck
other
my
companies
dick,
be
bitch.
damned. As a way to even
He's
things
bringing
out,
out that
we're going to
whore.
have to break the trend a little bit for our first on the list. Number 10, Voices in My Head music video.
Come on, you whoremonger.
Chance made many different music videos on his early time of YouTube, made in 2012. The lyrics are pure gibberish, and the visuals can be very uncanny for multiple reasons. The song ends using the Kira laugh from the final episode.
Uh-oh, am I gonna ear
While
his
this
rook?
is a poorly made music video, it's a good representation of what's to come in the future, for those unfamiliar.
I'm fixing to ear it! I just eared your rook! Like cutting off your left ear.
Number 9.
Stupid! I fuck his hoes! I stuck my dick up his butt. Twisted.
Volume 1 had
Fucking
tons of
slap
songs
that
that are well known
slut
to
from China.
sirens, but we feel that Nine Terrors is the most notable, as it's one of the
Street
first songs
whore.
about his anxiety, I guess, PTSD, feeling like going to sleep is the same as going to war. All done with poor audio and script reading, poorly synced to the tune.
What a dumb ass. What a fucking dumbass. What a dumbass. What a fucking dumbass. You slap that slut.
This song's a bit amusing because all these night terrors might actually be real, being the bug bites all over his body. All over his body. Number 8, Broken Trust.
Man, his music sucks.
One common trope presented in Cyrus's music is betrayal, with numerous songs titled exactly that. Rather it be the people around him, businesses, lovers, etc. And what better song to show than one called Broken Trust, which also means the same thing. I say this song is just his victim complex going wild, but that's literally the rest of the fucking songs. Number 7, House of Crazy.
Don't take it! Don't take it!
One of his longest songs, House of Crazies, clocks in for a good 10 minutes, with Cyrex putting on a robotic voice filter. The filter was meant to highlight the insanity. The song seemed to take place in an asylum of some kind, or maybe a visit at Dayton Hypernova's house.
I see a dick in your future. I see
with
a
the
dick.
protagonist of the song
Dick.
not understanding what's going on. I can emphasize because
Boom.
I can't understand what the fuck. I'm so annoyed I'm
Donkey
putting on my
Kong!
Number 6, Forever Change. Now, despite Chance's terrible appearance that he can't change, fortunately, he has managed to get some women in his life. There were some trolls, but others were legitimately Cyrax. Sometimes a little too loyal. Now, sure, he would later beat and abuse them, but that's beside the point. Forever Change is believed to be a love tribute to one of these women, specifically Abby, who has a hook for a hand. See, Chris, maybe you weren't so damn picky, you wouldn't be fucking your mom. Like many other songs, it is just as incomprehensible due to the music being so loud. I tried so badly not to see so
I'm fucking your butt. Man, his songs suck ass.
This one I want to put slightly higher on the list of the background music shown, because, yeah, the Nobody One track is pretty decent. Not really having to do with Cyrax. Number 5, Words Hurt.
God fucking damn it.
One subject in Chance's songs, depression, mental illness, ego boosting, also includes bullying. Now, this is fairly understandable, as he was probably bullied for his appearance in real life. And he does have a reputation of being a log cop, though I do think it does kind of contradict his other image he tries to put out. So this song does technically have a positive message, all things considered. That is until you remember all the other details. Number 4,
Cyrax sucks
Lost
ass.
Innocence.
Listening to you and him talk on the phone. You said, well, if they had the money, I don't see why not. She'll be ready by 9
Man, Cyrax music
and one of
sucks
those
ass.
details includes this. So Lost Innocence is a very unfortunate situation within the Cyrax lore. The song is very odd and very, very dark, more than his usual songs. Cyrax describes himself as a 9-year-old girl getting pregnant. And it's like, wait, what the fuck? What's going on here? What actually happened was that Cyrax plagiarized a poem made by a rape victim and tried to use it for one of his songs in an attempt to monetize off it. It's also very off because he's singing with very personal and gendered lyrics. And it just comes off very fucking awkward.
You see, I became a woman at the age of 9 with my monthly friend. And tonight, while you're asleep, I'm packing my bags quietly and I'm leaving.
This song was hard to sing. It's one of the most popular Cyrus music. Unfortunately, it's way too infamous to just brush over. So, yeah, that was pretty dark. Just an RPG would have never have done this. But the next one is a lot more lighter. Number 3, Sounds of Silence cover.
Man, that sounds horrible.
Sounds of Sound is one of the most well-known songs, and Cyrax does his own take on the well-known song, but he does it in a way that's more laughable. He tried to do a voice that seems very intimidating, but it sounds like the Swedish Chef was singing instead.
He sounds like a dying cow.
And this makes this track so much funnier to hear, which makes it a perfect spot for number 3. Number 2, Street Racing Scene.
Cruising around town, just me and my homies, hitting up the track scene, hitting up the track scene.
Street Racing Scene, just like Lost Innocence, has an infamous reputation, but a lot more positive, as some people think the song is decent, or at least above average compared to the rest.
Got the Lambo with the motherfucking undercoat, looking real mean, goddamn. Chevy Tahoe with that motherfucking live kid. Everybody wanna face me, it's me and my crew.
That might not be saying much. The lyrics are just as poorly written as many of his other songs, and I think maybe even worse. I guess they like the way he sang it. It could primarily because of the beat he used. I can't tell if it's done out of irony or not. So some people accept it enough, but I can't imagine people playing in their next race anytime soon. And now for honorable mentions. King of Akron, a somewhat infamous song title, but I found the Swedish Chef cover to be a lot better.
King of Akron, yo, I thought all of you knew that since the day I was born, this is what I was motherfucking meant to do. I was meant to play any and all who get in my way.
Our Fault.
So sick of seeing everybody in society always surrounding themselves with the latest devices, always stuck to the motherfuckers crazy.
Wish it could be me.
I'm so sick of these motherfuckers always looking at me like they wanna get a motherfucking piece of me. Everybody always wanna try to keep me from making motherfucking history of my motherfucking name. Here I am looking right at you.
Coming Undone drum cover, where Cyrax played the drum using kitchen items.
What a joke.
And number 1, Hidden in Your Lives.
You don't see the master die behind, but the truth is you're the one that's hiding behind the mask. You're the one hiding behind your lies every single day and night. You look at me with the pain, stare out the shine.
This might be a very odd choice for number 1, since it's very low profile, but the singing, in my opinion, is slightly more above average, and a lot more confident than the rest. Like a broken clock being right, or a broken clock accidentally being right. Wait, isn't that just the same freaking thing? Now, is it because I needed something to fill in the 6th volume? I mean, yeah. Though I think this is somewhat of a dollar store diamond in the rough, it's a little hard to tell since it's very low profile, but the singing, in my opinion, is slightly more above average, and a lot more confident than the rest. Like a broken clock being right, or a broken clock accidentally being right. Wait, isn't that just the same freaking thing? Now, is it because I needed something to fill in the 6th volume? I mean, yeah. Though I think this is somewhat of a dollar store diamond in the rough, it's a little hard to tell in the lyrics, because I'm pretty sure he copied it from some other band.
This is only the beginning for you. You have no idea what you got the long self-contained. When you try to run and ground you, pull you back, tell you that you stay in here. And it's on the attack. Don't feel bad for yourself.
But if he had his America needs a tidal wave of the old-time religion.
I have sinned against you.
How dare you!
We have no need to doubt God.
The heart of Babylon is preparing the nations to receive the Antichrist.
I didn't even build that house with money from the church. I built it with money from my book. I don't make this stuff up.
Repenting of your sin.
It is a moral issue.
They got together and swore a pact to the devil.
I just enjoy seeing people worship, praising God.
Hey everybody, and welcome to
Believe it.
Or Not,
A show where we believe it.
or one doesn't.
No, maybe.
Maybe not.
I don't know. Who's to say? Not me. We're not experts.
No, we're sexperts.
That's right. Yes, that's right. We know all about sexual things.
Sexual things. Sex is kind of like wet magnets.
Yeah, wet magnets. Opposites attract.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes they don't, though. And sometimes sames attract too, and that's okay.
Yeah, like sometimes two men can fall in love.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
disgusting.
However
That's
you want to
pure
do it,
disgusting.
just do it. So long as everyone is consenting adults. Yeah, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
Man, she's got some spit on
Damien,
her.
No murder.
Oh, no murder.
Yeah.
Damien, how have you been?
I'm good. Yeah, we're in a terrible, smoggy, polluted air warning right now. But the election's over, so that's good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Chow won.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Well, I feel pretty
Pretty good.
standard.
I'm alright.
There's a few surprises.
Okay,
With-
good.
Life's not bad.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Not a lot is new with me. My foot's really sore.
Yeah.
Hi, you guys.
My
I just
face
wanted to
hurts.
make a very
Man, she smells like spit.
Why did
And
your
it
face?
smells, allergies.
my favorite story in the whole
And it
world.
smells like smoke out there.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
I just
all
wanted
that
to
stuff
share
sucks.
How I've
Yeah, but
been since
other
the
than that, life's
last-
pretty good.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Other than all that shit, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we can't complain.
Speaking of complaining, let's complain
Move
about
your
somebody.
black ass, even if it is
Okay, that
white.
sounds good.
I'll put your black
I
ass to
searched
storm it, even
a couple
though you are
times
white.
just to make sure we haven't
You
done this as a
slapped that
topic yet.
slut from China,
Because
Japan,
I
and
swore.
Orient.
I feel
I mean,
like
the
we
Orient.
talked about it.
We have, and we talked about it in
Shit.
Prosperity Gospel, in
Yeah.
Televangelists, in Preacher Scandals, I think, and in one of the year in reviews. So we've talked about this gentleman,
Come on, you
Mr.
slut
Joel
ass
Scott
slut.
Austin, many times, but we haven't done an actual episode about him. So I figure, why don't we?
Come on, you
do
slut
it on
that
up.
slut.
May as well.
Yeah. What do you know about Joel Osteen?
I've just seen his face, and I know he's one of those big preacher boys.
Mm-hmm.
And he's full of shit. That's all I really know about him.
Yeah.
That's all I want to know.
Probably full up to about here.
He's one of those
Shit.
guys, like, you know, you see them all the time, and you're just like, I don't really want to know anything about this loser.
Yeah, yeah. And also,
Amen.
like, he really pissed me off last year
Oh, yeah?
because I put out an episode, a video, and there was no
right.
copyright claims on it at first. And then all of a sudden, he blocked it in all countries.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't him sitting at a computer, but it was his people.
Him. It was him.
And it wasn't his sermon, but it was a guest speaker at his church. So Joel Osteen Ministries or Lakewood Church or whatever Ministries blocked it. And normally, if you have a copyright claim and it's covered under fair use, what happens is you dispute it and they hold it in escrow for 30 days.
Yep.
But that's up to their discretion. I'm actually dealing with this right now with another company. But
Move
so
your black ass.
everything I did
Move
was
your
covered under
black-
fair use, but
Move your black ass.
they chose to block it at first until I disputed it, and then it still
You
got
slut that
suppressed.
fucking slut.
But it was visible, but it just wasn't like shown.
Yeah.
Like, you know, on like your.
He'd bring out that whore.
Or whatever. And then usually it's a 30-day period where they can dispute it. But
he'd
they
bring out that
denied,
whore.
After they waited till day 29 to deny.
Okay. Yeah, they're just trying to pressure you into taking it down.
Exactly. Yeah. So day 29 they denied it. I looked and I was like, no, everything is covered. This is legal, fair use. I'm doing commentary on the sermon.
Yep.
So I disputed that, and then they have another 30 days, and they waited the entire 30 days. So that just to make sure that I wasn't paid for 60 days.
Yep.
On a video that I worked on, and just because I kind of made fun of them. And I've seen it. Mike Winger is a guy I never agree with, but he's also had to fight Joel Osteen a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of Christian creators are critical of Joel Osteen, and so they just make sure anything from their church just gets shut down as soon as possible on YouTube. Yeah. So that being said, I probably won't use a lot of video clips from them in the YouTube version of this.
Well, can you use clips from your videos?
Oh, good question. Yeah.
I don't know. A video of a video is my friend. Something like that. They could probably still copyright it, though. But.
Yeah. But Joel Scott Osteen was born in 1963 on March 5th. We're both March boys.
You know what's funny? I always thought it was Olstein.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
Like O-L-S-T-E.
Same. Yeah.
But it's Osteen.
Osteen or Austin. We're both
he's one ugly motherfucker.
Boys.
You know what's funny? I always thought it was Olstein.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
Like O-L-S-T-E.
Same. Yeah.
But it's Osteen.
Osteen or Austin. I don't know how you... I say Osteen. But...
I don't know why I thought it was Olstein.
Yeah. He... I guess early on... So his dad was a guy named John Osteen. And his mom was Dolores or Dottie. Pilgrim or Osteen. And they were Texas preachers. His dad was a Southern Baptist preacher, and his dad Lakewood Church. I guess in the back of an old feed store. But Joel had no interest in ministry. He didn't want to be a pastor, but he wanted to help his dad.
It's so funny, just seeing some of this stuff. The Southern Baptist found Lakewood Church in the back of an old feed store. Humble High School from Humble, Texas.
Yeah.
All this stuff. It sounds like such a made-up...
It does.
...origin story.
And I feel like a lot of the plot points kind of sound like stuff from Righteous Gemstones.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that's where a lot of it came from, to be honest.
Yeah. But in 1981, he graduated high school, the year I was born. And, no, that wouldn't make sense.
You better swap whores.
Yeah, that makes sense. So he graduated high school, and he went off to Oral Roberts University. And,
Blowjob University.
I think communication? Let's see here. I saw that somewhere. But he studied not preaching at a Bible college, and then he came back and he's like, hey, Dad, let's put you on TV.
Isn't, communication at a Bible college...
Come on, you it's
still related.
Yeah, and it's like, because I know, my friend did similar stuff at a Bible college, and it's like, it's more like setting you up to be a radio host as opposed to a preacher,
Christian radio,
or a radio producer, Christian radio. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's still related.
Yeah, and so he got back and he set up his dad's church as a TV show on local TV, and then it went out, and his dad became a successful preacher. But because of him, his dad didn't want to be a TV guy. He just wanted to be his church guy. But Joel was like, "No, let's put you on TV."
No, Dad, you gotta get on TV.
Yeah,
I don't know what his accent is.
You gotta get on the television.
But Dad, you gotta get on TV. We got all these people on national TV wanting to watch you, Dad. Or local TV, I guess, right?
Meemaw, be so proud of you.
Meemaw, watch you on the TV. Is that what he talks like?
That's how everybody in Houston, Texas talks.
No, just Osteen.
Yeah, just Osteen. Yeah.
Everyone else there talks normal.
Yeah.
But I feel like he says Meemaw.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I'm sure he does.
You suck my dick.
And then in 1999, his father had a heart attack and was in the hospital, and he took over preaching that Sunday, and then his dad died that week as well. And it was kind of like a very sudden thing, and he had to make a decision, and he decided to keep preaching. which is kind of weird because like a lot of people went to school for it and had been wanting to be a preacher for a long time, but he just got to do it because his daddy did it.
No,
Yeah, it definitely feels like it wasn't a hard decision for him.
Yeah, exactly.
It was very like, oh, I've set this up. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, and then his sermons have always been. It's about it's self-help. It's motivational speaking. He rarely uses the Bible. Like he'll put like Bible verses in there to be like, see, it's kind of like
I just
this,
shit
but
in my
they're like
pants.
not. He's not like most preachers where they take a Bible verse and then tear it apart and like look at it and
Right.
try to make a sermon out of that. It's self-help, and then he sprinkles some Bible verses in there. And he's always been very much like, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want.
Don't mess with me. I have depression and I'll cry.
Hi, my name is Regine. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and I've been wanting to make this video for some time, and I just didn't know how to formulate the words. So I'm trying my best to just get this in and explain my story about why I chose to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses and why I feel as though they're just a harmful high control group, honestly. You know, my story is interesting. I wasn't born or raised a Jehovah's Witness. I was dating a guy who was 3 years older than me. I was 16, he was 19. And
I see a dick in
Jehovah's
your
Witness.
future.
His
I
mom
see a
disfellowshipped
dick.
for some time.
Dick.
But of course,
Dick.
around the time that we got together, she started going back to the hall, which meant he was going back to the hall. And he started to take the witnesses very seriously, but he still was in a relationship with me. So we dated for about 2 years. And in that time period,
Come on,
I
you
was going
slut
through a
that slut.
transition where I had an unsteady home life and things were just crazy on my end. So I started going to the Kingdom Hall in an effort to make my relationship work because it was becoming a problem that I was Baptist and he was
Come
Jehovah's
on, you
Witness.
slut that slut.
So he encouraged me to come. I came to the Kingdom Hall, and I like
You
the
slut
rules.
that
I like
whore.
the setup and everything because in my home life, I didn't have that. It was, like I said, it was very unstable. So the witnesses having these strict rules was very appealing at the time for a 16-year-old me.
Come on, you slut that
Also,
whore.
you know, I was love bombed.
Love
The first
burn.
moment I stepped to a Kingdom Hall, I don't remember what we just talked about, but I do remember that everybody in the room came up and talked to me. And that meant a lot because, like I said, my home life, I was very much alone, and I just needed that association, and it was nice, you know, it was nice. So I was like, there's gotta be something to this, you know? So despite my family not supporting my decision, after months of studying with the witnesses, I went to my boyfriend's baptism in about 2012. And I went to his baptism to support him, and that's my first convention that I ever went to. And I was always a Bible reader, so being told appealing in the sense of like, oh, I never understood that, I never got that. So it was nice to have it, and it seems so real. When I started having my own Bible studies, I was still very much into it.
Boop,
There
I
were
touched
some
her head.
things that were hard to understand, like the 1914 teaching, but I think that's everybody has a hard time with that. And when they start talking about like the disfellowship and things like that, and disfellowship wasn't really brought up, but it was brought up later. Anyway,
Move.
I
Rob, put your
liked
black
my
ass for
studies
stolen
because,
even if you are white.
again,
You
I
slut
felt like
that slut.
as a Baptist, I never understood my Bible, so I wanted to to understand it. So they were presenting the information to me like I was learning what my Bible was saying. But what it actually is indoctrination. They take the first few chapters of the book that you go through to kind of get on your good side. They talk about like what is the Bible? Who is Jesus? Who is God? What's the paradise? Things like that, like appealing and easy to digest. As you get to the later chapters, it gets more harder to digest, but you feel like, well, they haven't lied to me in the previous chapters, so there's no way that they're lying to me now. And that was the honest belief. So I rolled with it. Again, I also wanted to make sure that my relationship worked. So I needed this to make sense. And it did for a period of time. Even though I didn't agree fully or understand fully everything, I still went with it and was really excited because me and my boyfriend were going to be on the same page. That relationship didn't work out, but I ended up staying in the religion for 10 years. We broke up within the first year of me going to the Kingdom Hall. So for 9 years, I made Jehovah's Witnesses my entire life. I was, didn't talk to my family like that because they were worldly. I made the brothers and sisters in my congregation my new mom, my new dad, my new sister, like they tell you. I did everything correct. I got baptized. I started pioneering. I was a need grader. I went to my local ASL congregation. I was very, very zealous because you could not tell me that this wasn't the truth. In my mind at the time, I knew that was the truth. There were a few things that happened along my journey that kind of woke me up. The first thing was when I got reproved for the first time. My first reproof was very traumatizing in the sense of, although they were nice to me, I'm not going to sit here and make them out to be monsters because that's not true. They weren't monsters. They were actually very kind. But the whole three brothers all kind of looking at me and asking me these really intimate questions. Like, they weren't just saying, like, what did you do? It was more like, how many times did you do this? It was very intimate details that was uncomfortable and a little
Holy Ghost.
It was weird. Was very uncomfortable the entire time, but I felt like I needed to do that in order to get on Jehovah's Good Graces. But that was privy number one. Privy number two was, after many years of being in an organization and doing so much research, I still didn't understand 1914. It's 1914 is such a challenging belief, and I'm not going to go into my results that I found, but I will say something that is true should not be that difficult to explain, and you shouldn't have to do loops and jump through hurdles in order to get somebody to understand it. You know what I mean?
Holy Ghost.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense. The third thing that kind of woke me up, but I pushed it down, was when we studied the Watchtower that was talking about how the governing body is infallible and they're not inspired by God. I was always under the impression,
Holy Ghost,
since I started studying, was always under the impression that the governing body were inspired by God, and that's why they were saying what they were saying, doing what they were doing, because they had God's backing. If you're not inspired by God, that makes you no different than you. Like, it makes, we're the same, basically. And I'm like, if that's the case, that's like me saying I have the truth and you should all follow me and listen to what I say. What backing do you have? Because apparently it's not God's backing. So it's like, it's just men making up rules and people are just following. But again, I took it as me just not fully understanding it, and I was trusting the governing body as I've been programmed and trained to do. So I proceeded on. Then it got personal. When I got reproved a second time, and again, with my reproofs, I knew I was wrong, and I immediately went to the elders because I felt guilty. So I go to the elders for the second time. They make me leave my ASL hall, and I go to an English congregation nearby my house. And I remember at that time, my best friend, she stopped talking to me. Now, this wasn't just a person that I talked to occasionally. This was someone that I talked to almost every day. She was my best friend. We did everything together. She stopped talking to me. Mind you, at this time, I'm down. I feel guilty. I feel horrible. My life is in shambles. Everything was just going wrong at that period of time, and I really needed my friend there. And she turned her back on me. Months go by. I asked her, why did you do that? Why did you turn your back on me? I really needed you. And she said, well, I had to because you're bad association. Sorry. So I was like, how am I bad association? Like, how am I bad association? So she's like, well, you got reproved for a second time. It seems like there's things going on with you and et cetera, et cetera. And I said, so that is justification for you not being there for me?
Holy Ghost.
When I went to the elders about this, because she doesn't know this part, but I went to the elders about this, and I was crying and pouring my heart out about my friend betraying me, and they basically were just like, well, that's not the witness thing to do. That's not how Jehovah feels about you.
Fuck his
home. Some people are just not good friends. So I chalked her up to just not being a good friend, but that always stuck with me because my response to her
I'm
was,
gonna put your black
if
ass
I
to
was
storm.
bad association, Jehovah would have removed me from the congregation, but he didn't. So how am I bad association? That taught me that witnesses make up their own rules. Each individual witness make up their own rules. I've started to learn that even though the governing body says you need to shun your son if he's no longer a Jehovah's Witness, some people will say, well, they say that, but I'm not shunning my son. Witnesses will pick and choose which things they will follow, and I didn't
move around, put your black ass.
That we were all, one thing that sold me was that Jehovah's Witnesses were a unit, and everybody believed the same thing, everybody went the same way about things. Yeah, there were certain things that were like principles that you could, but for the most part, when it came to fundamental things like a person who's reproved versus someone who's disfellowship, it was clear rules. It's in the Organized to Do God's Will book. It's clear rules about how to treat those individuals, and she chose to treat me her way because that's just what she felt like she needed to do. And ever since then, I said I will trust people a little bit less. And I didn't hold it against the organization. I held it up against her. But it always stayed in my mind. Then we went to the generations teaching. The generations teaching was talking about the belief before that generation passed away, that the end would be here. But then the end didn't come when that generation died out. So they changed the definition of a generation to make it the generation over the generation. So you see how it kind of like overlaps? So the second generation that also belongs to the other generation makes it so that the generation continues. And I just felt like that was an excuse for them saying, yeah, like,
Twitter, Facebook.
Our prophecy, our prediction did not come true, so we just have to explain it away. They say it's new light. The new light is just, we said this previously, it didn't come true, so now we have this understanding. But it's basically just to cover their ass. I never believed the generation's teaching, and I looked at it in ASL and in English, and neither of it made sense to me. I came to the same conclusion that they were just trying to cover their ass. And when I started to really sit there and think about it, I was like, what else are they covering? But I didn't have the guts to do more research to figure that out. So I kind of just let it pass, and I moved on. But then I became tired. COVID happened at 2020.
I curse you.
We were at home. All meetings were on Zoom. All service was on Zoom.
I do curse you.
So I thought, oh, I'm home to do my meetings and everything. I should have tons of energy, but I didn't. I was constantly tired. I was constantly stressed. I just wasn't happy. I remember one time I was crying to a friend, and I was telling her how much I just hated my life. I was alone. I had nobody. You know, I had some shit that wasn't making... I'm sorry. I had some things that wasn't making sense. You know, it was an overload of...
Holy Ghost.
You know, study your watchtower, study your midweek, study for your studies, study for service. Then I had my actual job. Then I had, you know, and it was an overwhelming amount of work that I just was constantly drained and tired. And we joked about it during service, but I really felt that. So I noticed that I started cutting my camera off more to kind of give myself some peace. And I started to learn that I was more at peace when I wasn't at the Kingdom Hall. But like, I was more at peace when my camera was off and I wasn't really listening. You know, I just could take some time for myself. Because when you're a witness, you don't have any downtime. You know, Monday was meeting, Tuesday was service, Wednesday was like, I would go to family worships or do personal study. Thursday was studying for Saturday, Friday was studying for Saturday, Saturday was a meeting, also Bible studies, Sunday was service, more Bible studies. I worked 40 plus hours a week. I had no rest, and I honestly was just very overwhelmed and exhausted, to the point that I started to give my studies away. I started to try to lessen the load as much as I could before I eventually just took everything off. And I said, I'm just tired. I'm tired of this stress. I'm tired of this work. I'm tired of pretending that I'm happy when I wasn't. I'm just tired. I'm tired. So I started keeping my camera off. I started missing meetings. I started missing service. And I'm not gonna hold you guys. I was happier. I was so much happier. I was at peace. I was finally able to sleep in on Saturdays after working 50 hours a week. Shoot, even working 40 hours a week, I was able to sleep in. It was nice to get that break.
I curse you.
I felt guilty for doing that, but I started to choose me at that time, and I knew I needed to take a break. But then that break became something else. All those questions that I had over the years, all the things that kind of piled up, that I kept pushing down. And I realize now that's just cognitive dissonance. I kept just, oh, no, you know, I need to do more research. Oh, no, it's not like that. Like, I just, you know, it was always something that I needed to do. More pressure for me to do something. But simply, it just doesn't make sense. And I wasn't happy because I was living a life that made me unhappy, you know? I was just unhappy. It wasn't a good situation, especially for me. So I'm on TikTok. It's like 11 p.m. I'm on TikTok. I'm scrolling. And I come across the hashtag XJW. And she talked about the generations teaching. And the way she caught my attention and the wording that she used was the exact wording that I said in my brain when I was going through the generations teaching. And she made some points and brought out some things that made sense. I couldn't refute it. It made sense. And again, I already had thought this. I click on her page and I see she has other videos talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, and I went down a rabbit hole of not just her page but other pages. I went down a rabbit hole. I was scrolling on TikTok up until 6 a.m. looking at everything, just scrolling. And I was overwhelmed with the amount of information that I was consuming. But what really scared me is that it all made sense. And it answered a lot of questions that I kind of pushed down because I was scared of the answer. I was scared. And also, I dedicated 10 years of my life to this organization. I did not want to jeopardize that by consuming this information, but it was unrefutable. I cried so much that day. And I cried so much for months after. I didn't say nothing to anybody. I didn't say nothing to my friends. I simply just kept it to myself. And I slowly started to isolate myself from my friends. Not because I was trying to be sneaky and I was doing things that I shouldn't be doing. At this time, I wasn't really doing anything besides looking at apostate information, I guess. But I wasn't doing anything as far as like my actions. I wasn't sinning against God. I simply just was too mentally tired to lie to them because I show my emotion and I didn't want them to look at me and be like, something's going on with you, and then I have to either try to lie or I have to explain myself. And I didn't feel like it, so I just kind of kept my distance. But I still talked to them. I still hung out from time to time. It just wasn't all the time like it used to be. And then it got weird. So I told myself I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. And that's what I said to myself. I didn't say anything to anybody. And I tried to keep it to myself longer. I came up with a plan to leave my ASL congregation to move to an English congregation that didn't really know me. So that way I could kind of fall under the radar and disappear. Because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to live my life the way I want to without losing all my friends in the process. Thankfully, I was a convert, so I still had my family that I could rely on, but it didn't lessen the pain. I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep them, and that broke my heart too, and I think that's also why I avoided them, to kind of lessen the blow. So I came up with this plan. Everything was set in motion, and I messed up because I started dating my now fiance. I started dating him, and a month or two into our relationship, I was still kind of like leaving. Like I was doing like the final touches of me leaving, and we did a YouTube. We were streaming. We're both gamers. If you look on my page, there's me streaming because I was a streamer, and me and him were playing a game, and throughout the video, he's calling me babe. I didn't think anybody from my congregation or anybody that was a witness was going to be watching my page because I've streamed many times with him and nobody ever said anything. But this particular day, a friend did watch my video, a JW friend, And he sent the video into a group chat of other friends that I had. Group chat and sent it to them so that everybody could watch the video. And they see that he's calling me babe, and they know
I see a dick in your future. I see a dick. Dick.
That was hard. I called him and I was like, why didn't you just tell me, like, directly to me? And he tried to deflect and say, oh, you know, he wanted to make sure that it was real or whatever. But I said, at the end of the day, you saw the video. You could have just came to me. But anyway, you know, I told him that I don't plan on being a Jehovah's Witness. And that was the first time I said it out loud. Then I told another friend who he found out. And he actually called me and was like, you know, I kind of could tell that you weren't really feeling the witnesses. And we talked about that. And then I told another friend. Word spread quickly that I no longer was a Jehovah's Witness, or that I was questioning being a Jehovah's Witness, I guess. I had a friend, she hit me up and she was like, hey, can I come over to your house? I want to give you a gift. But I knew deep down she wanted to ask me about the video and what's going on with me. And I didn't have a problem doing that one-on-one, but it was really nerve-wracking. She ended up coming to my house with two other friends. She didn't tell me that they were coming. They just all showed up. I wasn't prepared for that, and I basically was like bombarded with questions, explanations, what's going on. Everything that I said, there was a rebuttal. Everything that I tried to show, and I didn't want to talk about the things that I found because I was trying to be respectful of their beliefs. They don't want to be exposed to apostate information. So I didn't want to share that with them. So it was hard to explain myself when I didn't want to contaminate their minds, in a sense. I tried my best, but anyway, when the conversation ends, everybody goes home, and I was so relieved. They told me by the end of the conversation, can you let us know if you decide to no longer be a Jehovah's Witness? And I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. Because they wanted me to take control over the narrative. I said, sure, yes, I can do that. A week or two goes by, and I did more research as I told them that I would. And I told them in a really long, lengthy message that I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness and why, and that I love them, and that I hope that despite me not being a Jehovah's Witness, that we can still be friends. And I was emphasizing that because I was trying to see if I could leave the organization with my friends intact. I was shocked to find out that I sent about 8 messages, maybe 9 messages. Only 3 of them got back to me. The remaining 6 didn't say anything. I pressed for a week or 2. I pressed like, hey, did you see my message? Did you get it? Da-da-da-da. Because whenever I had a friend who was disfellowshipped or who was getting disfellowshipped or who was leaving, I always said my piece, said goodbye, told them that I love them, etc., etc. But they just were quiet. One of them said, I need more time. The other one said, I don't know what to say. And the third one, she wrote a long novel about things that we already hashed out in the past that wasn't related to the conversation at all. So I don't know why she did that. I didn't even read the whole thing because I started to realize she was blaming me for everything. And I already knew what type time she was heading, so I just didn't finish the message. But I said okay and left it at that. I didn't have anything to say to any of the 6 that didn't respond. But I did appreciate the 3 who did. During this process, while while I was waiting for my friends to respond to me, while I was still sending out the messages, I didn't have Twitter. The biggest thing about, if you know me personally and you live in my area, everybody was talking about Regine has a Twitter account where she's using the XJW hashtag. And everybody uses that as the reason why nobody talks to me. And that kind of just spread. But it's not true. Before I reactivated my Twitter, this was already going on. I was already doing research. There was no Twitter. I sent out the messages to my friends. There was no Twitter. I was waiting for responses from the 6 who didn't respond. There was still no Twitter. And when I sent out a follow-up message to the 6 who didn't respond, and I only got like 2 messages back, or 3 messages back, but 2 of them said they don't know what to say, and then the other one blamed me for shit. I just dropped it. I said I'm done. I dropped it. A week or 2 goes by, and I'm incredibly lonely because at this point nobody's reaching out to me, nobody's talking to me, nobody's saying a thing. And I'm not going to keep reaching out to people who can't even respond to a heartfelt message, because that really hurt my feelings. I was trying to be open and honest with them, and they kind of just was like, okay, whatever, like I was nothing, which really taught me that they really didn't care about me in the same way that I cared about them. And that hurt a lot. I remember one time I was driving and I pulled off on the side of the road to cry. I cried for about maybe like 30 minutes. I cried. Not just like a boo-hoo cry. Like I'm like heaving, like crying. And I just knew that I was losing everything. I knew that I was losing 10 years of my life for people who can't even have the courtesy of responding back to me, who told me that we're family but was so quick to just dismiss and blame me and make it seem like things were my fault when I did exactly what they asked me to do. And then
move, you slut out
it was
slut.
at that point that I said, I need a community. I need to get this out of me. I had all of these feelings, all of these thoughts, and I couldn't put it anywhere. My boyfriend, I could talk to him, but he wouldn't understand because he's never been a Jehovah's Witness.
Move, you goddamn slut out slut from China, Japan, and the Orient.
At that time, after I was already
you
being
suck
shunned
my dick,
by my
bitch.
friends, I made a Twitter and I used that to talk to the XJW community for the first time. And from there, I was able to see other information that I was, at that time, I've reposted a couple things. I think I responded to a couple things.
You suck my dick, bitch.
And I didn't think that anybody was going to see my Twitter, mainly because I didn't broadcast my Twitter. People just found it. To be honest, people just found it, and then it became, oh, I can't be friends with Ray because she's talking bad about witnesses on Twitter, not realizing I made the Twitter when I was already being shunned. If you look at my Twitter and you scroll all the way down, you realize I really wasn't talking about the organization at that time. I was talking about my friends and how they're just shitty friends. That's really what I was talking about.
You reported black ass for stone.
Especially after they, I started hearing from some other friends who were still in the organization, but they aren't in the organization. They were telling me the things that was being said and by who. And that's when I kind of lost it.
You son of a bitch.
I kind of lost it. And I realized I need to do deeper research about what this religion is. What is this religion? How did it come about? Who came up with it?
Now, why in
the
I started doing that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I started posting
Get
those
a girl
things
to
that I
fight.
found on Twitter.
So peak goddamn motherfucking tires.
All of the information I shared.
just bought this bike the other day.
All of it.
It's a girl's bike.
1914 was not created by Jehovah's Witnesses. They took that teaching from someone else. Jehovah's Witnesses are the only people who believe that the fall of Babylon in Jerusalem took place in 607 BCE, even though scholars, archaeologists, and the like have all confirmed that it took place in like 589 BCE or 595, 596. It didn't take place in 607. So then it's just a lot of information. And I started to share those things, and all of a sudden Regine is an apostate. And that's why I stopped talking to her, because she's an apostate. Y'all already stopped talking to me before I was an apostate. I tried my best.
Yeah.
I feel like they just been upfront with me and treated me like, I don't know, like a human being, treated me like a friend. I wouldn't have made that Twitter. I wouldn't have made
you too. Love you too.
Posts. I wouldn't have said what I said. But I had to get those emotions out somewhere. And since I couldn't do it with them, I found another place to do it. And they just don't like it. But that's what it is.
I don't regret it. Goddamn black ass
I'm glad that it happened now, because first of all,
now this time
really
for cheating.
Push me.
He knows I'm anxious to play some more chess before 11 o'clock. He figures if he can stall, I'll die of boredom. Rather than die of boredom, I resign just so I can play in the next game. So in fact, he's trying to cheat. He's trying to rip this game by cheating. No, I'm not gonna fall for this shit. I wait him out till he loses. Till I fucking hold my stick
and pretend like they still
twist.
believe it. But I have the freedom to say I don't believe it. I don't think it's true, and I get to live my life the way I want to. If you follow me,
you whoremonger.
I unfollowed everybody on Instagram.
Come on, you slut.
And most of my pages. I say if you choose to follow me, you're following me knowing what you know, which means
you suck my dick, bitch.
Okay. It was a hard first year.
You suck my dick,
but I wanted
bitch.
to make this video to show that
you suck my dick, bitch.
Hi everyone, welcome to Charlie's Journey.
She's cute. Wow, she had a spit on him. With pit smell. With pit smell. With pit smell. Man, she's got a long arm. I watch her just because she's got a long spit arm.
Hello there. My name is Elaine, and I wanted to make a video talking about why I left Jehovah's Witnesses. So, for background context of how I even became one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I actually kind of grew up in it. Kind of. So, my parents were not Jehovah's Witnesses. My mom technically was, but she was very inactive, was not doing anything.
She's cute.
Back again. Thinking about my situation again with what's going on with my family right now.
I don't know why, but she is just so damn
and
cute.
How the community of Jehovah's Witnesses feels so good when you're in it.
She is so cute, I'm a good
and
watcher.
Everything that they say resonates with you. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is what Jehovah would want us to do. So we can get through. I don't even remember the words. Armageddon.
She's cute. Boop! I touched her head. If I touch a girl's head, it's because they're cute.
confuses me. In that if you want this community,
man, this guy's butt hurt because I'm
then
fucking
why
his
do
butt.
we
Because I'm sticking my dick in his
treat
butt.
people-
Twist him.
or why do they, not we, treat people like outcasts if they don't listen to every single thing? Why aren't we allowed to have our own human experience?
I do.
Makes me wonder. It's like, don't get me wrong, I believe there's a God. Higher beings. Absolutely. I call on them all the time for assistance in whatever I'm doing. But in this human experience, why the community is cut off. So, I guess that's why I left, because I didn't understand it and made the choices that I did. So that I was not allowed to be there. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think about it like that. It's like I chose to cut off myself from everything and my community for a greater. Because I knew there was more. You don't treat people like that. That's mind-blowing, isn't it? To have that happen. And that's the conscious process. Makes no sense.
If he moves up here, I put his asshole in check. He can't take my damn bitch shit. And then I'll dick up his knight. And then I'll dick up one of his rooks. And later I come ass up his other rook.
There is more.
Move, you slant-eyed slut from China.
And people that
Cut your unhappy ass the fuck back to China. And why are you out like carry that, cut that goddamn coronavirus back with you and infect the whole entire goddamn Chinese government. Maybe kill them all, let God sort them the fuck out. That way China cannot be a threat to the United States of America. Kill them all and let God sort them the fuck out. Goddamn slant-eyed sluts. You suck my dick, bitch. God fucking damn it.
And then I think about, okay, so there's one thing that
You
happens
suck
that
my
comes to
dick,
mind right
bitch.
now.
You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick,
I remember my parents saying to us as children, ooh, he loves me. You're never gonna amount to anything. Ooh, he loves me.
Like cute fly.
You're never gonna amount to anything. Don't do this. If you don't do this.
I'm blocking him for being such a fucking poor sport.
I took the path of
My last game I played him ever again, I stuck my dick
how
in his
those words
butt
landed with
and
me.
twisted until
Was
cum
watching.
came out of his fucking mouth. My cum
Just watch me.
out of his fucking mouth. My white
A
creamy
couple of my
ass fucking
siblings,
cum.
on the other hand, didn't take it that way. And they were like,
You son of a slut, slut, that slut, motherfucker, goddamn
I'm just gonna
slut.
continue to be whatever I'm gonna be.
Holy Ghost.
Which took them down the path of drugs and alcohol.
Holy Ghost.
And it's really sad because those addictions, well, they turn into addictions, obviously, and they, really never got to experience much more. Like the one passed away. And the other one I have nothing to do with. But definitely not from what I hear, not fully living a full life, that's for sure. So what if I can stop that? I'm sure I'm not the only one that heard that. And not even with...
He is not going to get out of me chanting my victory speech.
But...
No, in fact, I'm a... I fuck his
home!
Matter of fact, I'm going to say it more intently. With more intensity. You slut that slut from China.
Gonna amount to nothing.
Man, I stuck my dick in his butt. And twisted. Stuck my goddamn cock over those buns. And twisted. God fucking damn it.
So yeah, please reach
out. Come on, you slut that slut.
Because you're not alone in this.
Goddamn slut that slut from China.
I'm in my late 40s now, and I'm still...
You suck my dick, bitch.
It still is hanging around.
You suck my dick, bitch.
I finally found a way to get rid of it. Or to get it out there.
You suck my dick, bitch.
Because I have been alone for all this time. In these thoughts, and I try to suppress
You
it
suck
so
my
much,
dick, bitch.
But it hasn't been helpful. To me, or to anyone, to be honest.
You suck my dick, bitch.
I just want to find people that are in the same boat as me. Oh, there's another story that comes to mind. So,
come on, you dick sucker.
They were great, because you got to be around
people
that were
dick
like-minded.
Sucker. Come on, you dick sucker.
And get to spend time with other brothers and sisters. And in normal life, I wasn't allowed to hang out with kids my age because they weren't...
Oh my God, I just fucked up.
Well, they were worldly, that's the word. They were worldly, so they weren't like-minded.
I just fucked up.
And
he's gonna ear my rook.
Where I would find new friends, and then I wasn't allowed to hang out with them because it was
Ooh.
family time. Super. I don't get it.
He gonna ear my rook.
Anyway. Reach out. Let's do this together. Let's go through this together. All this messy mess. The stuff that I used to hide. That obviously I'm not now. Because we need the community. We really do. We really, really do. So, I hope you have a good day.
Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today we are looking at some really funny stuff. Genuine comedy that's not meant to be comedy. It's like watching the Twilight movies or something like that, where it's just so awful, it's hilarious. So buckle in, strap yourselves tightly. Strap yourselves tightly? What the heck does that mean? Buckle in covered it. I don't even know. Sometimes I get excited and I just start talking. But hey, if you enjoy that kind of thing, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm not doing a second take of this, even though I normally would, because you guys can see how bad some of my takes truly are. Yeah, run the intro, because this is awful.
Shut the fuck up and get on the goddamn...
The actual results, because just hazarding a small, tiny, nuanced guess here, most of the baptisms are from people that have some association previously with Jehovah's Witnesses, or they are children.
And while many have eagerly reached out for this opportunity, others hold back. Why?
He's so fake.
Some might reason, I'm content where I am. I have a good job that supports my pioneering. I'm needed in the congregation. I could be sent anywhere. I hate moving. I'm not smart enough. My circumstances don't allow it. They don't need me. There are plenty of others who can reach out. Well, can you relate to any of these feelings?
Yes, some people might reason this way. I actually want to break this down for people that maybe have never really experienced what it's like being a Jehovah's Witness and being all in, because I personally have, and so I kind of can get my head around this. So first off, we have going to meetings, commenting, blah, blah, blah. That is very time consuming because you have to be prepared for it, which takes time. You have to get your family ready. You have to have everything like planned and scheduled. You have to drive to the meeting, which ostensibly takes a lot of time. You have to sit there. You got to drive home. You got to get undressed, decompress. All of those things account for a significant amount of time. Next up is, hey, I have a good job and now I'm pioneering. So I have a good part-time job that allows me to pioneer. So that's just an extra 70 hours per month, but no, don't think that that's just 70 hours per month, because as someone that pioneered for nearly 10 years, I can tell you the 70 hours per month isn't the amount of time you actually spend. It's almost double that. It's almost double because of the preparation, the transportation, the coordination, the getting ready, all of the stuff involved around pioneering is extremely time consuming, and they have these stringent rules, which honestly, only the people in their very first year of pioneering actually follow. Once you hit like 4 or 5 years, you are very loose with counting your time. I think I have a whole video about just that I had in the early days. Yeah, so that one is ridiculous. Now we have trying to maintain the Kingdom Hall. I'm needed in the congregation, so I help with cleaning and maintenance, changing light bulbs, sweeping. This person has boxes that they're packing, so they're doing some type of literature service, which I used to have to drive all the way to the Puyallup Assembly Hall and pick up literature and boxes of literature that would come in and stuff like that. That was 45 minutes.
Stupid!
And then you have to sit there, get the literature, bring it back. You have to have these check sheets.
Stupid.
You have to log into jw.org and log all of the things that you got. It was extremely time consuming trying to do all of the literature stuff. But again, Stephen Lett's saying this is no excuse for not reaching out even more. This next one is just a little bit different, because this is a fear that people would have of maybe they just get an assignment and it's a roll of the dice. Maybe you go somewhere and it's the type of climate you like. So, like for me, for instance, I don't like hot weather. I don't like being warm. I don't like being sweaty. I would be very happy in a very cold, dark climate. That doesn't bother me at all. But the sun, I'm allergic to the sun. Really. It's awful. I can't stand it. And that's a legitimate concern for people, because everyone has A, preferences, and B, sometimes your health is actually involved. Sometimes certain climates just don't work for you personally.
He totally missed it.
You cannot be the healthiest version of yourself in a particular climate. So that is a legitimate concern that he's downplaying here, because Watchtower doesn't take into consideration what your preferences are. They just say, hey buddy, you're going here, shut up and do it. And because that's what God wants. Moving is awful.
Man, he could have fucked my hole.
Terrible. It's frustrating. selling stuff, especially if you're doing this.
Come on, you
might be
bitch.
selling everything you own, which is it's wild to me. But that is not an excuse for not doing free work for Watchtower. That's a legitimate concern that someone would have. Like, hey, I've already invested so much in this life that I've built. Why can't I just stay here, follow your guys' rules, and be a good Jehovah's Witness and still gain the paradise? Well, no. That's not good enough for us. This next one here is silly. I'm not smart enough. You do not... Take the governing body, for instance. You do not have to be a five-headed, galaxy-brained individual in order to be a successful Jehovah's Witness. I don't think not being smart enough is a real concern or fear that people have, because their teachings, their theology, their ways of doing things are at like a kindergarten, maybe, we won't say that, a 5th grade level. And so as long as you are able to at least be at a 5th grade level, I promise you will be okay. 5th grade might be too high, to be honest. Now this one is super annoying because here they're showing someone that just has a normal, healthy life. They like to travel. They like sports. And then on top of that,
man, I stuck my dick in his butt.
So you're pioneering,
twisted.
You're doing everything
like
right.
A slut.
And you've somehow managed to find a little bit of time to travel and play some sports. Maybe you shouldn't be doing those things. Like, why do you need to go and see the pyramids of Giza? Why do you need to see the Eiffel Tower? Well, why do you need
I feel
to
like
go
it.
and visit ancient temples in Cambodia? You could be going to SKE, brother. And, you know, there's results. I can't show you the results, but I promise there's good results if you do these things. Let people live their lives, Stephen. Let them live. Everyone says let them cook. Let them live.
Let them eat cake.
And this last one here is Watchtower just showing its cards. Maybe they don't have enough free labor in order to accomplish all of the things that they're trying to do, and they don't want people thinking, well, there are other people that are willing to do this crap, so I don't have to. And that is one of the biggest fears that Watchtower has.
Do this
Apathy
crap.
Is something that they cannot allow, because as soon as people are comfortable and are just good at being a good Jehovah's Witness, raising their family,
I gotta hear that shit again.
Affecting all of the things that they're trying to do, and they don't want people thinking, well, there are other people that are willing to do this crap, so I don't have to.
I love it.
Is one of the biggest fears that Watchtower has. Apathy is something that they cannot allow, because as soon as people become comfortable and are just good at being a good little Jehovah's Witness, raising their family, it's not negatively affecting their lives, that's when things might get a little bit shaky, and they might start wondering, where is the value that being a Jehovah's Witness is adding to my life, or is it actively, harming my happiness and actually making me depressed and stressed out and giving me horrible anxiety? So this one is just, hey, don't think that just because we're always talking about how wonderful the accomplishments of the organization are, don't think that we have enough people, because we are always on the hunt for more talent. I just find it so frustrating to look back at some of these things, because it's how I used to think. Everything that he says here is how I used to live my life. What more can I do for Watchtower? And the moment that you unplug from the organization and you start living your own life, it is wonderful. It's like you finally are breathing for the first time. It's like for 25 years, I was underwater breathing through a tiny little straw. And that was all I ever knew, was just breathing through this little tiny straw. And then I finally emerged from the water and was like, wow,
the fuck, dude?
This is pretty nice. And And that's what Watchtower is trying to avoid, and that's why they are always pushing
stupid
to attend some of their schools. But now,
because that was
fucking
fucking
down with too many talks or anything, let's look at what people's money is buying.
Stupid.
So, as you guys know, I've
don't even think about taking my whore because I just do this shit.
Watchtower is spending people's
whoremonger
donations and the money that they send them, and they're building these movie studios that are hundreds of millions of dollars.
Come on, you
they're building an
whoremonger.
entire city in Australia, and then their new
You suck my dick,
whatever
bitch.
it's called, Ramapoo project. So yeah, let's look at what people's donations, their time, and their money, the culmination of millions of people around the world and hundreds of $millions being spent instead of doing humanitarian efforts.
Bitch.
Let's look at the quality of movies that Watchtower is able to put out, because it's absolutely hilarious. I promise I could do all of this in a week by myself with a budget of like $500. It's so stupid.
Movie slut that.
That is why the kingdom of the heavens may be likened to a king who wanted to settle accounts with his slaves. When he started to settle them, a man was brought in.
A king. How much does he owe?
Well, 10,000 talents, my king.
And here, folks, is what Jehovah's Witnesses are getting
God damn it.
from their selling of kingdom halls, for their constantly donating more and more money, listening to Watchtower beg for more funds so they can advance this ever important, life-saving, kingdom interests, preaching work, whatever they say. This is what you get. Some fake, cheap beards, some bad costumes, this whole production. Don't forget, they only release these in 720p, mind you. So that's what you get for your money with Watchtower. Great return on investment, if you ask me. It's absolutely ridiculous that they beg for money in order to say that they're making life-saving videos, and this crap is what you get. This is like something I would upload on my YouTube channel, and I promise you, it does not require $100 million movie studio to do a production of this
goddamn motherfucking tires.
Would cost me.
I just bought this bike the other day.
Give me a week.
It's a girl's bike as I've ever seen a girl's bike. It down to the pink motherfucking tires.
I did it all myself. I could do all the sound, everything.
Now why in the fuck did I do this? Because
why? On God's
it looked like the easiest bike to ride. Because it's got a goddamn basket, so I can buy something, put it in the goddamn basket.
New York.
Because it's got a goddamn
I don't understand. I don't
container, so I can put my motherfucking drink in.
Of this.
And when I'm not using it, I can put it right here.
I just wanted to see, like, well, what is 10,000?
I'd not get a goddamn bike for a goddamn looks. I don't give a good goddamn. All I care about is getting from point A to point B as easy as I can with the least resistance.
It's 20.
That's all I give a good goddamn about. I don't give a good goddamn fuck if it's a girl's bike. As long as the goddamn motherfucking thing works with a good goddamn fuck.
Cocaine, hookers, cocaine, cocaine.
That's all a good goddamn man has got. Fuck, damn it.
Spending
You
his money
understand,
on?
son of a bitch? Well, I think
How do you rack up $240 million worth of debt as an individual? Not as a Chinese company,
man's bike
as an
now. It's
individual.
my goddamn bike.
Oh, golly.
Now, God.
This is a real hootenanny.
Ain't no goddamn girl's bike now. It's my goddamn bike. It's God's goddamn bike.
Take him away. Sell him, his family, and everything that he has, and make a payment towards his.
Please, my king. No, please, I'm begging you. My king, not this. My king, please, be patient with me, and I'll pay back everything to you.
Last night. I curse the Holy Ghost if I don't get along the forms. I don't want to curse the Holy Ghost. If I curse the Holy Ghost if I do not get along the forms, then why do I do.
I cancel your debt.
Now, why in the fuck did I? Why in the fuck?
Thank you.
Now why in the fuck did I?
Hey man, just
Get a girl's bite?
I know I owe you
Pete
some
goddamn I felt like it.
$140 million and $24 billion, but hey, just be patient with me, man. I know I haven't paid anything yet, but I'm gonna get right on that. I'll pay it all back, I promise. Just be patient. There's hyperbole and there's ridiculous, and this is going into the ridiculous, but it's okay, because it was from the great teacher, not the great healer, not the great miracle worker, Jesus,
my low social media numbers. I've been trying to get my
But
voice
that
heard
slave
on
went out
YouTube,
and found one of his
Twitter,
fellow
Facebook,
slaves
goddamn
who owed him 100 denarii.
I'll get more views back when I was younger. 2009,
I'm talking to you.
2012, now
Where's my money?
if I'm lucky, 130
I'm
of the
trying.
views
What have you got here? It's just my food. Wait. What is
I
nothing?
cursed the whole dose.
Where is it?
My
I don't have it.
social
Answer me. Got all the money. Answer me.
What do I have to do? Got to go out and kill a bunch
Pay
of
back whatever you owe.
No, would I have to go out? I'm not gonna do that.
Pay me
Would I have
back.
to go out and kill a bunch of goddamn
Watchtower,
come
thank
for
you
us?
for this, because there are some things
Well, my
that are
goddamn
so bad.
social media numbers
The
pick up.
acting, everything is so awful. It
I curse God,
transcends our wanting for good content, and it just makes us laugh at you. And this is one of those moments. This is funny, awful. This. Give me my money! Give me my money!
Give me my goddamn motherfucking money. Now why in the fuck? Now why in the fuck? Because I feel like it. Now, well, why do I feel it? Why do I feel like it? Because I feel like feeling like it. Why do I feel like feeling like it? Because I feel like feeling like feeling like it. Why do I feel like feeling like feeling like it? Because I feel like feeling like feeling like feeling like it. We can go on and on and on and play patty cakes forever. So shut the fuck up, Santa Claus, or I'll punch Joe's. Now why in the
is what passes
now why
for spiritual food
the
now. Back in the day, it was
now why in
I mean, they were
the
odd, but they had at least some
now
depth
why
to them.
in
the
the
revelation
fuck?
It is kooky and bizarre,
Now
crazy,
why in
and wild,
the
but at least
fuck?
it had to be like trying to
Now
make
why
connections
in
and put all
the
these things that are
fuck?
reliable and tie them to modern day
Now
events
why
and
in
interpreting
the
prophecy and
fuck?
all that's going on. Like we went
I
from that to
get a girl's bite?
where's my money?
Pete goddamn motherfucking tires.
My money. You
I just bought this bike the other day. It's a girl's bike if I've ever seen a girl's bike. It came down to the pink motherfucking tires.
Into prison until you pay back everything you owe.
Now why in the fuck did I do this? Because
Take him away.
it looked like the easiest bike to ride. Because it's got a goddamn basket, so I could buy something, put it in the goddamn basket. Because it's got a goddamn
want to get
container,
some
so I can put my motherfucking drink in.
to try and mitigate.
And when I'm not using it, I can put it right here.
In prison, that is the best way to do it.
I'd not get a goddamn bike for a goddamn looks. I don't give a good goddamn. All I care about is getting from point A to point B as easy as I can with the least resistance. That's all I give a good goddamn about. I don't give a good goddamn fuck if it's a girl's bike.
Get that whore out of here! Get that whore out of here!
Hi. Apostate Ashley
Get that whore out of here.
And I wanted to tell my story.
Yeah.
I wanted to start telling my story. I don't really know what all to say because
you goddamn whore.
There was so much time spent in the ministry.
You suck my dick, bitch.
It was intense. So there's just a lot to unfold. But
come on, you slut.
I'm a former Pentecostal pastor, a former Master's Commission director, and I have been an atheist for the last 9 years. So how did I get involved in church to begin with? Well, I didn't really get indoctrinated the typical way that most other people do, which is usually through their parents. My mom did take me to an Assemblies of God church from the time that I was 5 to 8 years old, but she herself never heavily indoctrinated me. She never spouted off things about hell or anything hateful whatsoever. She got involved like most people get involved when they're trying to find something, find help. Eventually that kind of fizzled out. So when I was around 12 years old, I was invited to go to the youth group at that same church by some boys on the bus. I was hooked. I was hooked when I was 12. I went into that Assemblies of God youth group. The very first Wednesday night that I was there was the altar call. You know what I'm talking about. If you've been a part of Pentecostal churches or any charismatic evangelical church, and I mention an altar call, you know what I'm talking about. You know, the atmosphere that's set, the music, the lighting, sometimes the fog, what kind of worship music they're going to play. Not that the worship leaders are malicious in any way, but there is an unintentional priming that happens in those worship services. And that is what drew me in. That is what got me. It was the freaking praise and worship at those freaking Pentecostal churches that sucked me in. I went so many years with only an experience. So from the time that I was 12 years old until I was 18 and had gone into Master's Commission, I was completely biblically illiterate. Theological knowledge was pretty lacking, to be honest. At 18 years old, I was recruited into Master's Commission group in Michigan. First year, I was in the Michigan Master's Commission, Great Lakes Master's Commission. Then I went over to Des Moines Master's Commission in Iowa from my second year on until I left. Master's Commission is a story in and of itself. It is a cult. It is intense. It's like a Christian boot camp. Training, discipleship training, and basically training to be a missionary. We start off with 2 hours of worship every day. We practice dramas, and we travel around the country from church to church, telling our testimonies, putting on a whole church service, doing the dramas in front of the church. The director would preach, and they would give us an offering at the end. We would go to their Wednesday night youth group sometimes and put those services on and recruit youth for the next year. It was just a cycle of recruiting and indoctrinating, asking for money from the adults and recruiting their youth. That's what it was. Plain and simple. and it was a cult. It was extremely strict. It was so intense that I think that I'm going to do a completely different video on just Master's Commission. So I was involved in the Master's Commission for about 5 years. Went from being a student to an intern to marrying the assistant director, becoming an assistant director alongside him, and then we became the directors of the program when the director and his wife had been called somewhere else. Then we became associate pastors or assistant pastors of the church that we were based out of that whole time. The senior pastor or lead pastor of the church that I had been at, and the region, central region, since it was based out of Iowa, of Open Bible, the denomination I was a part of, is a whole insane story, intense world. The experience that I had thought was the Holy Spirit for a number of years, was really just a bunch of hormones and neurons firing off. Of the herd mentality, with being with all these other people, the atmosphere being set with the lighting and the music and the repeated words in the worship and the prayer. It's then in the sermons. In most cases, the people that are leading all of this stuff are not doing it maliciously. I never was a part of it maliciously. And I know that a lot of the people alongside of me were not a part of it maliciously. But if you want to see good people do bad things, put them in religion. 2013, when I finally decided to leave. I had probably been skeptical and questioning my faith for about a year at that point. If you're made to feel guilty for leaving a tribe that you no longer want to be a part of, you could be in a cult. But the big thing that I think about when I look back on all of my time is how little I tried to educate myself on why I believed what I believed. I didn't educate myself on the doctrine that I was basing my entire life on. I made so many decisions in my life based off of my belief in a supposed Jesus. And I never double checked. And I feel embarrassed and sort of ignorant. Extremely ignorant that all of that time, all of those years, I gave in to this
Holy Ghost
experience in prayer and worship. And
Holy Ghost. Where's the goddamn game? Goddamn son of a goddamn bitch.
Welcome to Brandon's Bookshelf. I'm Brandon. Today's episode 3 of Sunday School, where we focus on all things religion, atheism, skepticism, agnosticism, etc.
You suck my dick, bitch. Bald motherfucker.
take a fresh look at the origin story.
Wait, she had a spit effect on. With the spit effect. Through spit.
Welcome to Apologia.
With the spit effect.
Welcome to Apologia, where a former Christian takes a look at the claims of Christians. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you may have seen my very first video called Ken Ham Made Me an Atheist, which was a quick intro into me with a clickable title. Or maybe my more recent Why I Am Not a Christian video, which is more of a current position statement. I've gone into more depth of my deconversion story on other channels, including Pine Creek and Neil the 604 Atheist, but I think my favorite telling has been on a Christian podcast called Recovering Evangelicals, hosted by Luke Jansen and Boyd Blundell. The podcast describes itself as for people who were once very comfortable in their Christian faith until the 21st century intruded and made it very hard to keep on believing. The hosts remain Christians, but understand potential challenges from science, philosophy, and history. They tend to have fascinating discussions there, and I'd highly encourage you to find the link in the description and check them out. They had me on as part of a series on young Earth creationism, and the various possible reactions from Christians who have such a worldview challenged. My segment represented the reaction of one who ultimately leaves the faith. With Luke and Boyd's permission, I'd like to share that chat with you here today, unedited, and so including their Christian perspective on my journey. While this isn't my usual look at Christian claims, perhaps it will lend some insight into the man behind this channel, or perhaps my struggles will resonate with you, whether you arrived at the same conclusions I did or not.
Welcome to Recovering Evangelicals, a podcast for people who were once very comfortable in their Christian faith until the 21st century intruded and made it very hard to keep on believing. I'm Luke Jansen.
And I'm Boyd Blundell.
Last week I mentioned the three general coping strategies that young Earth creationists take when their faith comes up hard against a science that paints a picture of a world that goes back many billions of years and life evolving from one form into others. The first coping strategy is to reject the scientific data. We talked about that strategy last week. This week we want to look at the second strategy, reject the faith. I know many people who ended up rejecting Christian faith, and for a variety of reasons, although there's common themes or threads. In fact, the listeners will know that I myself was essentially one of those until I found a way to go for option 3, which is next week's topic.
I just shit in my pants.
And so I had no shortage of people to talk to in person about this strategy of giving up faith.
I just shit in my
but
pants.
I really wanted to talk to this one person who fits into this camp, our guest
I just
today,
shit in my goddamn
whom I met
pants.
only recently, in the past few months in fact, and only online so far. And the reason I want to talk to him is he's not just one more face in a large crowd. He stands out among the rest because of his reach and influence in this area. A lot of people may not know our guest by his proper name, Paul Enns, but he's popular on social media by the name Paulogia. I referred to him a month ago in the second of our mini-series on evangelicalism. He's got a YouTube channel with 44,000 followers, and the tagline on his channel reads, "A former Christian takes a look at the claims of Christians, wherever science is being denied in the name of ancient books." And his reach and influence is reflected in the people he's had on his show, both as allies and opponents, co-hosts and targets, who themselves are high-profile speakers or writers or social media personalities in their own right. So on the one hand, there's a long list of people who would share his current views, people who were once Christians themselves, some even prominent ones, but they've since rejected their Christian faith and become very loud and influential anti-evangelists. So people like Matt Dillahunty, who's got 132,000 subscribers, and another one who goes by the YouTube and Facebook name Viced Rhino, a fellow Canadian with 54,000 subscribers. And on the other hand, his work has put him in direct conversation with, or shall I really say direct conflict with, people like Ken Ham of Answers in Genesis, Eric Hovind of Hovind Ministries, the son of the infamous Kent Hovind, William Lane Craig of Reasonable Faith, and Sean McDowell, a well-known speaker and writer, and some of us may remember he's the son of Josh McDowell, whose book, Evidence Demands a Verdict, that'll be very familiar to evangelicals who go back to the 70s and 80s. It sold 1 million copies. So, for Paul to be engaging directly with such big names in the evangelical world of Christian apologists, he's clearly an influential voice in this conversation. We talked to Paul about his story,
So, like many a prairie boy in Canada, I was raised in a Mennonite community and in a Mennonite church, which, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a very evangelical, very literal type denomination of the faith that typically believes in a young earth, and we actually wouldn't spend a lot of time thinking about that. I was raised in that community. I enthusiastically did Bible camps. When I was in high school, I spent a lot of time attending youth conferences, attending youth events, and my main passion was actually Bible quizzing, which was memorizing the Bible. At one point, I could quote virtually the entire New Testament, a lot of it anyway, and then went to Bible school on full scholarship because of that. Really dug into what I learned at Bible school. After Bible school, I did go on to secular careers in software industry first, and then into the movie industry, and later in the comic industry, and lots of different cool things.
Do you want to talk about that movie industry?
Well, sure. No, movie industry is my, subtle way of saying I went to work for George Lucas on the Star Wars prequels. So that was a very cool part of my life. And if you can imagine a Mennonite boy from Saskatchewan who has experienced nothing outside of that, getting yanked up from that and dropped into the middle of San Francisco, culturally, that's a big shock. And weirdly, I maintained my Christianity the entire time I was there. It wasn't until I left San Francisco that I started doing all this other introspection. So it's maybe not the story people would normally expect. But all that said, all that time, both here in Canada and in the States, I was heavily involved with youth ministry, particularly the Bible quizzing ministry I was talking about. I was head of that for Saskatchewan for a while, then California for a while, and involved with international competitions on that level. Coaching
there's a spit girl.
Involved with international competitions on that level, coaching hundreds of kids. I was also involved in music ministry, including got up to doing some Promise Keeper events, which were big rock concerts in and of themselves.
Oh yeah,
I remember those.
So I was in it, even despite my secular careers. Ministry was my thing. I was at church 5 times a week. It's all the things. So fast forward to, because of the nature of my work and projects, sometimes it's project based, and so between projects, because of a graphic novel I've been writing that involved dinosaurs.
Yeah, and I know this story. I want to ask a couple questions before we get to that.
Sure.
Right, so before you came to the point of rejecting your faith, how did you deal with things like the Big Bang and dinosaurs and things?
So generally, I raised myself. I have a hard time knowing at what level the indoctrination came from my parents, or just what I wanted to be true, or how my mind works. My pastors and my Bible school teachers and everyone I was involved with was so sure that the young earth and that all these things were correct, and that they would brush these other science ideas aside so readily. I basically just said, you know what? They have spent their time looking into it. I don't need to spend my time looking into it. They assure me that we have great answers to all these things that I'm hearing. So I will just move on with my day, because it doesn't affect me. I was passionate about the New Testament. I was passionate about youth work. I was passionate about music. So whether the science lined up, people were assuring me it was fine, so I just took their word. I was very much a slave to authority.
Wow. Now, I remember in one of your videos, you mentioned that you were taught to disbelieve or to distrust the science. How do they do that?
Again, from that authority, you generally get this mistrust of the outgroup. You get the mistrust of, well, if scientists are telling us that we came from monkeys, then we should treat them as suspect on everything. I think part of what helps undermine is the economy where I am, which is kind of oil-based and based on agriculture and a lot of things. We don't want the scientists to be right about anything. We don't want them to be right about climate change. They're wrong about miracles. They're just wrong in general. And so part of it is just this general, it's not blatant. It's not like don't trust science, but it's constantly saying when science rubs up against the Bible is just correct without any question. It just is.
Right.
So, and this is actually NASA's and Genesis mission statement, and one of their things that they say is, if the science and the Bible conflict, the Bible is just automatically right. And that's one of the things you sign when you go work there. So when you feel like there's a conflict, as I did, I felt like the 65 million years ago the dinosaurs died was in conflict with what I knew about Noah's flood. Well, then the Bible is just right, and maybe we don't understand the mechanisms of how it's right, but I'm just going to trust that it is.
Right. So you were working
now
on this
I gotta dick
video.
up all these ponies.
Yeah, so
that's a
well,
okay.
As I said, I was in the comic industry, and when we write novels, the thick ones, that they're graphic novels, and I was working on one that involved dinosaurs. It's called Neozoic.
Neozoic?
Yeah.
And were you involved with a company at all?
So I was I'd formed a publishing company called Red 5 Comics.
Okay.
And this was one. We published many titles.
Come on,
for
you
comics in the
bitch.
early 2000s. Actually sold really well, and enough to
You
spun people
slut.
and that kind of thing. And it was actually weirdly, it's a side thing. It was actually based on King David. In my head, it was very much. It was a retelling of a lot of the Old Testament stuff, but with dinosaurs involved. And anyway, that all fell apart. And because this wasn't a Christian project per se, it was meant for a wide secular audience. I knew what I thought about dinosaurs, but I felt, well, I'll throw in a few nods here and there, maybe to what they say. And so I wanted to look up just a few facts that I could sprinkle in without hurting what my beliefs were, but talk to them. So for the very first time, even though I loved dinosaurs, had all the dinosaur books, I started paying attention to, this one's 65 million, this one's 115. Like, why are they picking different numbers of millions of years? Because in your creationist head, it's like, well, they were all created day 6, so they're all walking at the same time. But my book kind of needed to know at least what these evil secular scientists thought the order of progression was of when these things had appeared. So at least I could get the order right. Maybe the stegosaurs were in the morning and the T-Rex got made in the afternoon. I don't know how day 6 works. But anyhow, so I looked up those details, and some of the stuff that they were presenting made a lot of sense to me. But again, I was living in this world where if science conflicts with the Bible's right. So I just let that accumulate in the back.
Come on, slut.
But what it did, of course, was create some cognitive dissonance as we went. My mind, there was this itch now in my brain of like, well, those scientists were actually making some sense to you. So fast forward to a time when that project was done, and I was waiting for a next project in the visual effects industry that I was working on. I had a little bit of time. I'm like, well, I'm going to go. My pastors and my teachers are also sure that the evidence is great, so I'm just going to read it for myself so I can get rid of this scratch in the back of my brain. I'll just learn what they know so that I can be equally as confident as they are. And so I look it up online, and the best-selling creation books by far are the Ken Ham Answers books. There's 3 volumes, there's 4 now. These are the quick reads. You can get all the answers you want. So I order those. Great. I'm going to have this problem's going to go away. The brain scratch is going to be gone. So I start reading them. I tear into them when they get here. And even though I believe what Ken Ham believes, these answers seemed terrible. They seemed flimsy, even though I agreed with his conclusions. And that was troubling, because then it was like, well, how good if this is the best that younger creationism has to offer, why is everyone so sure? And the one that really sunk it, where I literally had just dropped the book and it fell to the floor, was how did kangaroos get to Australia? Did they really jump from Mount Ararat somehow and leave literally no trace and get to Australia? So in the Ken Ham book, it says that kangaroos, because in the flood, there would have been lots of carnage. There probably were lots of logs floating around. So yeah, the kangaroos somehow jumped from Ararat to the tip of India, and then from there, for some reason, they jumped on logs, and the logs floated them to the continent, and happily ever after, no kangaroos appeared anywhere else. And I just dropped the book. I'm like, that can't be the best possible answer to this question, that they jumped on logs.
Right.
And so from there, I said, you know what? Let me at least read what these secular people say, and went from there.
Where are you in this? Are you in San Francisco at this point?
No, I'm in Calgary at that point.
Okay. Like post San Francisco or
post San Francisco?
Yeah.
And up until reading these books from Answers in Genesis, up until that point, you were fully committed to your faith and looking at ministry, working in ministry.
Working in ministry up, and I was still. Although it was this weird thing where I started having other people pray because I was feeling really guilty that I was having doubts. And I felt like I couldn't pray in front of people anymore when some of this doubty stuff was happening. I don't know if that's a common experience or not.
I've had this conversation with Luke.
Yeah.
Because he leads music, and he was like, when I was younger, it's like I just felt like I couldn't lead the music. This will get back to a theme of what I think about evangelicals and doubt, like just the concept. Because I was wondering, because I would think that one of the dangers I certainly see in this sort of social control mode is traveling, changing location, changing context, is a real danger.
It is,
because just having multiple perspectives on anything, right? Like you go from Saskatchewan to San Francisco on how to live life, on how to organize your day, on
I'm meeting my first openly gay people of my life, as far as I know. Right.
They don't have horns. They're not monsters. They're nicer than some of the people you knew back home. And so those all dissonant moments kind of I feel like they just add up eventually. And so I was curious as to when this happened, but it was San Francisco.
I was already back
to Calgary.
I was already back into Canada's Bible Belt here. So the other weird thing, for me, I'd always been taught that the Bible was either 100% true or you couldn't trust it.
Right. Yeah.
And so as soon as you get to 99, Yeah. Now what, right? Yeah.
Perfect riddle. You see this all across the evangelical. I mean, and this is not just evangelical, all across ideological spectrums. That when you make these black or white things, right? Like in sexual morality, it's the virgin whore problem, right? Like the idea that like, oh well, this has happened once. Like, there's no point in even managing this anymore because I'm already way on the other end of it. Because there's no middle ground.
So that must have been more like the straw that broke the camel's back kind of a moment for you.
It was one of those things where I don't know what is right, but I now know what is wrong, and I was in the camp of wrong.
Wow.
So at that point, I mean, to me, I've never read that stuff, like the Ken Ham stuff. Although, like, I think about the stuff that I had seen because, Promise Keepers and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, wow, when you look back at it. But at the moment, I feel like that kind of moment is, like, if you asked me, like, I'm writing graphic novels right now, if I had to come up with a story, I would do much better than this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, if I had to, like, make up a story, I would do much better than the stuff I'm reading here. So now I have this sense that these people aren't my, like, intellectual superiors at all, and that there's not a lot of reason I should trust them.
But not only that, the trust is the exact right word, because at that point, that's when you start feeling like, wait, people have been lying to me about this, or at least how confident I should be. What else have I been lied to about? That's suddenly the door, the wedge, that is like, oh no, now I need to investigate the Bible. Now I need to investigate everything and start from scratch.
And you mentioned it dropped from 100% certain to 99, and that was
Holy Ghost.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's only 100 and 0, man. This is a light switch.
It's a very binary faith I had.
So a lot of dominoes started falling. How long did it take for you to come to the decision that you came to?
So from there, I immediately I had to do the exact same process. I know nothing about evolution. I know nothing about science. That hasn't really been my purview in any way. So then what should I read? So I start reading Dawkins, and I start reading, Bill Nye books. I start, because I have to start from the ground up. I can't dump deep into science papers.
Holy
I thought
ghost.
Nothing exploded, and monkeys came out of the water, and we were a couple generations after a monkey. Like, that's what my understanding of this level was, right? So I had to start from scratch. So
Holy Ghost.
I started just really digging into science
Holy
books.
Ghost.
So I looked at the things I felt like I knew, and what was the best counter for that. And then I would, find that counter, which eventually leads you online into, blogs and onto YouTube and things like that. But I was more trying to read the books. So over the process of about 5 months, it was where it took me from not understanding evolution at all to being able to tell you all about the fusion of human chromosome 2 and endogenous retroviruses, and that these things were too solid for evolution to not be true. Now, I think, as a lot of people in our audience will attest, knowing those things is completely irrelevant to the question of, did Jesus die for my sins? Right? Like, or does God exist? Like, those are not relevant questions. So I kind of cheat in one of my first videos and say, Ken Ham made me an atheist. Not really. I understand fully how people can hold both things to be true. Okay, evolution and the earth is old. True. God also true, and Jesus also true. I understand how people can put those together. But as I kind of alluded to, it's kind of like, okay.
Well, but patty cake told not fucking long,
you slut. Like Peter Enns and other people or Hugh Ross and Biologos, and they had ways of reconciling these things. But if I've been lied to about this stuff,
you snap that goddamn slut.
Should I take a step further back? And I did. So then I started going after the Bible, or what I thought I knew about the Bible. And that's was probably another 6 months of going through and just looking at, can I trust who wrote these books, and can I trust the content of them? And did you know that some of these passages weren't originally there? And textual criticism and